I am Smith, and I'm 78 years old, and I wake up most mornings with the same thought sitting on my chest before I even open my eyes. It's not pain, it's not fear of dying. It's the quiet knowledge that I spent most of my life trying to impress people who barely remember my name. I live alone now. The house is too big for me, but I keep it because downsizing feels like admitting something out loud. The walls still carry the echo of a life that was always in motion, always reaching, always chasing some invisible approval I thought would finally make me feel settled. When you get to my age, time doesn't feel like a road anymore. It feels like a room you're slowly backing out of, trying to take one last look before the door closes. I used to believe I was doing everything right. That's the part that hurts the most. In my 20s, I was sharp and hungry. I wasn't ruthless, and I wasn't cruel. I was careful, ambitious, the kind of man people nodded at and said had a future. That mattered to me more than I ever admitted. My father never said much. He worked, came home tired and judged silently. When he did speak, it was usually about what a man should be doing, earning, becoming. I absorbed that like scripture. So when I started climbing jobs, titles, circles, I thought I was building a life. What I was really building was a performance. I learned early which rooms I wanted to be invited into. I learned how to laugh at jokes I didn't find funny, how to talk about things I didn't care about, so people would think I belonged. I told myself this was maturity. I told myself this was how success worked. There was a woman back then. There's always a woman in these stories. She loved me in a quiet way, not loudly, not impressively, just steadily. She liked small things, morning light, slow breakfasts, talking without an agenda. I liked her, but I was distracted by people who seemed more important. I remember one night we were supposed to have dinner, nothing fancy, but I got a call from a colleague, a chance to be seen, a chance to be included. I told her I'd make it up to her. I never really did. That pattern followed me like a shadow. Every time I had to choose between presence and progress, I chose progress. At least that's what I called it. By my 30s, I had a reputation. Reliable, driven, on track. People started introducing me with pride in their voices. I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I felt like I was always bracing for the next evaluation. The truth is, when you're trying to impress the wrong people, there's no finish line. There's just another set of eyes you're trying not to disappoint. I worked late. I traveled often. I missed birthdays and dinners and ordinary Tuesdays that never come back. I told myself it was temporary. That word temporary can steal a lifetime if you let it. By the time I noticed the distance growing in my marriage, I didn't know how to close it. We spoke in updates instead of conversations. She would tell me about her day. I would listen with half my attention, already rehearsing tomorrow. I thought being needed elsewhere made me valuable. I didn't realize it was making me absent. People praised me constantly. Promotions, handshakes, compliments about my discipline. I mistook recognition for connection. When my children were young, I believed they would understand later, that one day they'd look back and see I was doing all of this for them. Children don't remember your intentions. They remember whether you were there, I see that now. At 45, I had everything I'd aimed for on paper. Title, income, respect. I remember sitting in my office one evening, lights off, city glowing below, and feeling absolutely hollow. Not dramatic, just empty. Like the room after everyone has left. I told myself it was fatigue. I always told myself it was something that would pass. The people I worked so hard to impress, most of them drifted away as soon as I stopped being useful to them. Some retired, some moved on, some forgot me entirely. That's another thing you don't realize when you're younger. The approval you chase has an expiration date. My wife stopped arguing at some point. That should have scared me more than it did. Silence can feel peaceful if you don't understand what it means. By the time she finally left, there was nothing dramatic about it. Just a quiet understanding that we had become strangers who shared a history but not a life. I watched her pack, and I remember thinking I would have time to fix this later. I was wrong. Later doesn't always come. The years after that blurred together. More work, more accomplishments, fewer people to share them with. My children grew into adults without me noticing the small changes. I knew their resumes better than their hearts. When I finally slowed down, when my body forced me to, I expected relief. What I felt instead was exposure. Without the noise, I had to sit with myself, and I didn't recognize the man I'd built. I had been so focused on being impressive that I never asked who I was trying to impress, or why their opinion mattered more than my own quiet needs. At 78, the phone doesn't ring the way it used to. The calendar is mostly empty, and in that space, all the postponed feelings show up at once. Regret isn't loud. It's steady. It waits patiently. I don't hate my life. I want to be clear about that. There were good moments, real joy, laughter, pride, but there's a difference between a full life and a busy one. I confused the two for a very long time. If you're listening to this and you're younger, I won't tell you what to do. I've earned no authority over anyone's choices. I'll only say this: the people who truly matter rarely ask to be impressed. They ask to be seen. I learned that too late. The wrong people never noticed the sacrifices I made. The right ones felt them deeply. And now, in the quiet, that truth sits with me every day. If this meant something to you, sit with it for a moment. That's all. When the noise finally fell away, I didn't feel peaceful. I felt exposed. There's a kind of quiet that comes with age that isn't gentle. It doesn't comfort you. It asks questions you spent decades avoiding. I used to think slowing down would feel like rest. Instead, it felt like standing still long enough for everything I outran to catch up. After I retired, people congratulated me. They said I'd earned it. They told me to enjoy myself. I didn't know how. My days had been structured around being needed, around being evaluated. Without that, I felt strangely unnecessary. Mornings stretched out. Afternoons had no shape. I tried filling the time the same way I filled my life tasks, goals, distractions. It didn't work. That's when the memories started arriving without invitation. Small ones at first. Moments I didn't think mattered when they were happening. My son standing in the doorway asking if I'd come watch him throw a ball around. Me saying not tonight, without even looking up. My daughter's school play, sitting in the audience, half present, checking my watch, already thinking about a meeting the next morning. She spotted me, waved, and I nodded like I was proud. I was. Just not present. You don't lose people all at once. You lose them an inch at a time. I used to believe being respected was the same thing as being loved. It's not. Respect is conditional. Love is patient, but it isn't infinite. There's a lie men like me grow up believing, that if we just become enough, successful enough, stable enough, impressive enough, everything else will fall into place. What no one tells you is that while you're building that version of yourself, the other parts quietly starve. I didn't neglect my family out of cruelty. I neglected them out of confidence. I was confident there would be more time, confident they'd understand, confident I could make it up to them later. Confidence can be a dangerous thing. When my wife and I stopped sharing a bed, I told myself it was normal. When we stopped sharing thoughts, I told myself it was just a phase. I didn't ask what she needed. I assumed my efforts elsewhere were proof enough of love. She never accused me of anything. That's what makes it harder to carry. There was no villain, no dramatic betrayal, just absence, just delay. When she finally left, she said she felt lonely with me. That sentence still lives somewhere in my chest. After the divorce, I threw myself deeper into work. That's what I knew how to do when something hurt. People admired my resilience. They didn't see that I was hiding. The thing about impressing the wrong people is that they don't care what it costs you. They only care what you deliver. And when you stop delivering, you disappear. At my retirement party, there were speeches, kind words, applause. People thanked me for my leadership. I smiled. I shook hands. I said the right things. Then I went home alone. The next morning, no one needed me. No emails, no calls. That was the first time I understood how temporary my importance had been. I tried reconnecting with my children. Carefully, awkwardly, we had polite conversations. They were kind. They were also grown. They had lives I hadn't fully witnessed being built. You can't step back into a relationship at the point where you left it. Time doesn't work that way. I don't blame them. They learned how to live without me because I taught them how. That realization is a heavy one. Some nights I sit in the dark and replay decisions that seemed harmless at the time. The late meetings, the missed dinners, the times I chose admiration over intimacy. None of them felt like turning points when they happened. That's how life gets you. It doesn't warn you. It just keeps going. I sometimes wonder who I would have been if I'd stopped trying to prove myself, if I'd let myself be ordinary in the eyes of people who didn't matter. There's a relief in not being impressive that I discovered too late. At this age, your body slows before your mind does. You feel time differently. You notice how few firsts you have left, how many lasts you didn't recognize when they passed. The last time my daughter reached for my hand. The last bedtime story I didn't read because I was too tired from work. You don't mark these moments. They slip by quietly. That's what makes them unforgiving. People think regret is about big mistakes. It's usually about small choices repeated faithfully. I don't lie awake wishing I'd made more money. I lie awake wishing I'd stayed at the table longer, wishing I'd asked one more question, wishing I'd listened without looking at the clock. The wrong people never asked for my presence. They asked for my performance, and I gave it to them gladly. I gave them my best years, my sharpest energy, my attention. The people who loved me would have been satisfied with much less. That's the cruel irony. If you're still in the middle of your life, you may think this doesn't apply to you. I thought the same thing. I believed I was the exception, that I was balancing things better than most. We're very good at lying to ourselves when the truth would require change. Change feels expensive when you're busy building momentum. Stopping feels like failure. But sometimes stopping is the most honest thing you can do. I don't say any of this with bitterness. There's sadness, yes. Yes, but also clarity. Clarity arrives late, but it does arrive. I've learned that admiration is loud and fleeting. Connection is quiet and durable. One leaves you quickly, the other stays, if you tend to it. These days I measure my life differently, by the few people who still show up, by the memories that feel warm instead of sharp. I water a small garden now. I sit on the porch in the evenings and watch the light change. There's a peace in simplicity that I once would have dismissed as unambitious. I was wrong. If this reaches you at a moment when you're choosing where to place your time, I won't tell you what to choose. I'll just tell you what I learned. The people who matter won't be impressed by your sacrifice if they never see you. And the people who are impressed won't stay long enough to thank you for it. Life doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for attention. I spent too much of mine trying to be enough for people who didn't need me to be human. At 78, I finally understand that being present is a form of courage. One I didn't practice often enough. If this meant something to you, maybe let it sit quietly for a while, not as advice, not as warning, just as the voice of an old man who learned slowly and late what was worth keeping. That's all I have now, and strangely it feels like enough. Thank you for watching this video. Click here to watch another video that might interest you.